We're so grateful that everyone's able to make it. It's 8:33 on Thursday morning, January 14th, 2021. Can you imagine 2021? I never anticipated being alive during the year 2021. Strange what we look forward to. So let's go ahead and get started. Madam Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Well, very optimistic there for 2021, I see. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this year's first elected council meeting. I'm really glad that all of you took the time this morning to join us. We have a lot to cover today. And despite last Wednesday's and perhaps also due to the events of last Wednesday and of course the aftermaths of last Wednesday, now more than ever, I feel so important for us to come together and engage in meaningful dialogue. And I'm so glad you are all part of it today. Let's go ahead and get started. I'll call the meeting to order now. We will start first, as is with tradition, with the reading of the covenant. Reverend Channing Miller and Meg Wheely will be doing the reading this morning. Channing?
Meg Keeley just joined us, so she might need a couple seconds just to get her audio connected to help. So, good morning, Meg. Good morning, Terry. Morning, Carolyn.
Meg, do you have the covenant in front of you?
I do.
Oh, great. Good morning, everyone. Meg and I will read the covenant. Our dialogue is the governing board and the elected council build and provide a sacred environment that will nurture the growth towards a world of interfaith peace. In solidarity with one another, we affirm.
Our dialogue is an interfaith dialogue. We all have different communication styles and varying views. We commit to be in dialogue with respect for all, expanding listening to hear multiple points of view.
We realize that we are responsible for the growth of I4C, and each of us shares a duty to interfaith growth. The governing board provides leadership, and the elected council works towards progress and the fulfillment of I4C goals as we grow.
We recognize that we are imbued with interfaith responsibility. As such, we commit to hold ourselves and each other accountable to merit that trust. Respect for the diverse traditions, beliefs, and spiritual paths of all those we encounter. Hold ourselves to the highest ethical standards and accountable to our communities and to I4C.
Our shared time is interfaith time. We commit to honoring the start and the end times each time we meet. It is our hope that this living document, which as we grow in knowledge and awareness, will be reviewed and updated regularly, that it may bring our commitments to each other and all we serve in every interaction with sacred regard for one another and for all life.
Thank you very much, Reverend Channing Miller and Meg Wheely, for the reading. Before we get started this morning, I was wondering, I know I had sent the minutes a few days ago, if everybody has had a chance to review the minutes, and if everyone has read it, have any questions introduced, and also if there are no questions, if we can also get somebody to move a motion to approve the minutes. The minutes are for the December 10th meeting.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
So who did the first?
Margaret.
Margaret moved, and then I think Caroline, did you second?
Yes.
Thank you. We will record the minutes approved. Well, before we do that, are there any questions, any additions, anything that needs to be looked at the minutes from anyone else? If not, then we will go ahead and submit the minutes for December meeting to be approved. And then can I get a vote from everyone approving the minutes? All we have to do is do a wave of hand. The better way to do it, probably to see if there are any nays. That way we know if we can add any of those. If not, then I don't see any. Therefore, we will go ahead and have the minutes approved unanimously. Have that recorded.
Erica, I
Moving
don't
on.
see Tahil yet, so we might need to come back to that introduction.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, do we see Tahil? Because I was looking myself. If we don't have Tahil, shall we, Randy Thomas, is he here? Yes. So we will go ahead and move to the reading for today. Randy Thomas will do us the honor. Randy, you can get started.
Thank you. This morning's reading is a reflection on Gandhi's 7 Blunders and Then Some by Donella Meadows. A few weeks before he was assassinated, Mahatma Gandhi had a conversation with his grandson, Aaron. He handed Aaron a talisman upon which were engraved 7 blunders, out of which, said Gandhi, grows the violence that plagues the world. The blunders were wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce without morality, science without humanity, worship without sacrifice, politics without principles. Gandhi called these disbalances passive violence, which fuels the active violence of crime, rebellion, and war. He said we could work till doomsday to achieve peace and would get nowhere as long as we ignore passive violence in our world. To his grandfather's list of 7 blunders, Aaron later added an 8th, rights without responsibilities. Gandhi gave the list to Aaron in 1947. Almost 75 years later, the blunders have been institutionalized, built into our corporations, our governments, our very culture. Not only are we no longer embarrassed by them, we actively practice them. In some of them, we even take pride. From Wall Street to state lotteries, we entice ourselves with the promise of wealth without work. Whole sectors of the economy offer pleasure without conscience. Many scientists believe their greatest strength is their ability to separate their knowledge from their character and their science from their souls. Advocate serious morality in a commercial context away from the PR department, and you will be laughed out of a job. Morality, it might be nice to take the high road, but our competitors won't. So forget it. Insiders in Washington and other capitals speak openly of their ability to cut political deals in a world totally without principle. That's how it works in this town, they say, and they're not apologizing or regretting, they're boasting. Religious movements calling themselves Christian have somehow derailed into picking and choosing among the Gospels, grasping at biblical snippets that seem to support possessiveness and self-righteousness, never noticing the passages that urge sacrifice, sharing, compassion, humility, forgiveness. Conservatives raise high some of Gandhi's blunders: pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, to bash over the heads of liberals. Liberals hit back with their own select list: wealth without work, commerce without morality. Everyone scrambles for rights without responsibility. Somehow our public discussion has become dominated by either or simplicities. If you complain about commerce without morality, you're accused of being against commerce. suggest bringing humanity back into science, and you're anti-scientific. Say there's something wrong with wealth without work, and you're class jealous, a hater of rich people, an underminer of capitalism. Murmur that worship might require sacrifice, that faith might entail service to the unfortunate, and you are suddenly an enemy of religion. This simplistic thinking seems incapable of embracing the idea of balance, which was Gandhi's central point. He wasn't calling for work without wealth or humanity without science. He was calling for work and wealth, science and humanity, commerce and morality, pleasure and conscience. A later day Gandhian, E.F. Schumacher, made a careful distinction between two kinds of problems, solvable and unsolvable. Solvable problems, like measuring the distance from Earth to the moon, or figuring out how to make a two-wheeled, human-powered means of transportation, depend on understanding the physical laws of the universe. Those laws are stable. Solutions that kind of problem endure. Once you have an answer, it will remain valid. You can give it to others and it will work for them too. Unsolvable problems occur in the realm not of physics, but of morality. They often take the form of reconciling opposites, each of which is profound and necessary. How shall we raise our children with freedom or with discipline? Is an example Schumacher gives. The answer has got to be not freedom without discipline, not discipline without freedom, but both, in a shifting, balanced, dynamic, not engravable in stone, not the same for every parent, every child, or even the same child over time. Life is bigger than logic, says Schumacher. There is no final solution to child raising, except that you must love the little rascals. Love, empathy, understanding, compassion, these are faculties of a higher order than those required for the implementation of any policy of discipline or of freedom. Life is full of unsolvable problems. Pretending to solve them by choosing just one or another of profound opposites can generate even more blunders than the ones Gandhi listed. Justice without mercy, order without freedom, talking without listening, individuality without community, stability without change, private interest without public interest, liberty without equality. Or in every case, vice versa. Listen to our public debates about healthcare, crime, taxation, regulation. You will hear the Gandhian blunders, the frantic search for a permanent simplicity, the passive violence that leads to active violence. There's no point in taking sides in these debates. There's only an opportunity to point out that balance, discovered through love, is what we should be seeking and what we always have to be seeking.
Thank you, Randy. That was beautiful reading. And I think we all probably should take a little moment here to think about that. There is not one side, but we're all in this together. We all have to come together on finding ways. Is there any questions anyone has for Randy or wants to add something to that?
My only question is if I would like to ask if you wouldn't mind, Randy, making that available to all of us. That was beautiful.
Yes, sir. I'll put it in the chat room.
Thank you.
It certainly was.
I think there's a link in the agenda to it. Was there? I mean, there's a link, and I assume that
Yes,
that goes
yeah,
to.
in the
there
PDF
is.
version of the agenda, it's in there.
There
You
is.
can find it inside there as well.
Yeah, it was beautiful, Randy. Thank you.
And Tahil made it from our friend from URI.
Perfect. Welcome, Tahil. We're introducing Tahil here from URI. He is the North America representative. Tahil, would you take a few minutes to introduce yourself and your work?
Absolutely, Dr. Bain. Sat Shri Akal. Thank you all so much for this space and time here. It's a pleasure to be here with my colleague Biff, who's on the call as well, representing the United Religions Initiative, which is the largest grassroots interfaith network of organizations around the world. I have the privilege of being your regional coordinator for North America, which is, a unique and robust region, just like the other ones, doing some amazing work on the ground. And, I've been involved with this work for about 8 years, and I've been on this job in particular for about 10 months. And I've kept wondering what my role in interfaith cooperation is. I've kept wondering what my purpose is in this larger movement for justice and for healing and for peace. And the past week, I think, has given me a lot to think about. And probably for you all as well, who are involved in this work in the unique ways that you come into this space. And time again, it's really become clear how much healing is needed. The last part of the words that I heard about, unity and healing from the larger political context have been nuanced with this idea that there's partisanship, that we only help our own, that we only seek to make sure our own people are uplifted. But as Dr. Bain said towards the end of her reflection on the words from the earlier message, we're supposed to create a ripple effect of peace and change and positivity that affects everyone, because there isn't more than one side. All of us are a part of the same side of humanity. But in the midst of the vitriol and midst of the controversies and the incessant need to be committed to violence, whether verbal or physical, we keep coming to this point of why organizations like yours, like the ICCC, matter so much to us in this larger network for the United Religions Initiative. We are a network of 1,060 cooperation circles or chapter organizations in 110 countries. You are a part of a global network that is seeking the same message, that is seeking the same goals in making a better world for us and each other now rather than later. And it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of ways for us to be able to be committed to this work. But most importantly, in that earlier reflection and from the work that I've seen Reverend Will and Dr. Baines do through this organization, it becomes clear that interfaith cooperation is also an expansive and inclusive definition that includes all of us, that includes each of us in the ways that we do our work. Because interfaith can't be defined as a single concept. It can't be defined within a single movement. It should be something that's a part of the larger routine of how we're able to push the world forward into a better place. And the gratitude that I have in my role as being a regional coordinator means I can be at your service for any of those needs that you might have. When you're trying to vision map or brainstorm an event, to when you want someone to show up for solidarity for something that might have happened, to be able to have someone help facilitate or speak on an important conversation. I want to be there to make sure that you all feel that there is a global network of organizations, that there is a powerful team of people behind you supporting you in the work that you do. And I'm just really thankful that I can share the space with you all to be able to do that and speak to you today.
Thank you, Tahil, for that wonderful message. Do we have any questions for Tahil? Any remarks, any comments?
I just want to say welcome, and we appreciate your presence with us. We know that Sari was a predecessor of yours, and we had great interaction with her over the years. And I'm sorry personally that your first 10 months were the 9 of the first 10 months of the pandemic. So you haven't had a chance to come meet with us, even though we know you're in Southern California, you do make it up here from time to time. So the next time we're able to be in person together, let's make sure that that happens, Tahil.
I look forward to it, Will. I really appreciate that.
We are talking about creating a Interfaith Council conference, maybe something online this March or April, but something in person for all of the Bay Area Interfaith Councils once we're able to be back together later this summer or fall, maybe down on the Embarcadero or Treasure Island or somewhere that's kind of in the middle of the Bay Area. And we will invite you for that. But all of our elected council leaders will be invited to that conference as well.
Thank you, Tahil. Where exactly in Los Angeles? Because I do go there quite a bit, not as much these days.
So I'm on the outskirts of LA County in a city called Claremont. But oftentimes I sort of hovered through all of LA County doing something when I was able to get out of the house more often. So you might find me at, West Side, Venice, Santa Monica area to downtown LA. So I'm just an LA native through and through.
You're a busy person. Well, thank you and welcome. And we hope to see you more often at these meetings.
Absolutely.
Extremely thoughtful remarks and expressions of unity you made. Definitely would like to get more involved with URI and hopefully to share our missions with the rest.
We look forward to the collaboration.
Thank you so much. If we don't have any other questions, anyone else, any other questions for Tahil?
I just wanted to thank you, Tahil. I'm Margaret. And I could think of about 1,000 questions. So maybe I'll connect with Beth or connect with your website more and kind of really dig in, because what you're saying is so critical. And I think during COVID, especially, we need to know we're there for each other. We can't do our work alone. Well, I can't. I don't know about anybody else. And so just hearing your message that you're here for us and you are open and willing and excited to collaborate to do the work that we're all doing is just a breath of fresh air to my heart. So
thank you. Thank you so much, Margaret. That's one, that's very kind of you. And two, I think if this pandemic has proven anything, it's that physical isolation doesn't stop us from cooperation. And in the midst of so much going on, we need each other. We deserve each other in a good state of mind and action. So I appreciate that. And Reverend Will has already put my email in the chat box. So if anyone would like to email me with questions or share any thoughts or know more about me, please don't hesitate to reach out.
And I'm going to find
His
you
emails in the agenda as well.
to school in Claremont. So I'll come find you.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for taking the time. We hope to see you more often and at least collaborate with you via email. What a good resource you and URI are for us. We are going to move, if there are no other questions for Tahil, we'll go ahead and move on to the Interfaith Calendars. Father Tom Bonacci, are you on?
Morning, everyone. It's good to be with you today. I've been asked to do this in under 5 minutes, so I'll try to be as nuanced and as clear as possible. As of the present moment, I'm aware of 2 types of interfaith calendars. One is called, in the printed form, the multi-faith calendar. If you go to that website in multi-faith calendar, it will come up. The Interfaith Peace Project sent these out to different people through the year in order to enhance the practice of interfaith spirituality. The other one is online. And you go to Interfaith or Multi-Faith Calendar, and the markers of the year, as I like to put them. So there are 7 things that I would like to share with you about these calendars, how they might be used, how they might be understood, and how they're relevant to the work that we do. First of all, the calendar provides the markers for the years. That is, in the various traditions, the holy days, the holidays, the commemorations, the festivals, the observances, whatever the words might be. For any of us who are involved in the practice of interfaith spirituality, becoming aware of how the rest of the world and humankind celebrates and observes the seasons, the festivals, and the markers of the year is very, very important. One of the things you might want to pay attention to in any calendar, especially for interfaith sensitivity and interspiritual practice, is whether or not the United Nations International Days are present there as well, because that helps us to connect our own particular tradition to what's going on in the world. Oftentimes when I minister within my own community, I remind that community of the celebrations that are happening that month, the observances that are happening that month, in light of the international days and our fellow human beings in the world as they celebrate and observe what is meaningful to them. One of the things that you'll notice as you survey the feast days, the holy days, the holidays, and the commemorations is that the various and diverse traditions oftentimes appeal to the same symbols, like water, or fire, or light. There's the commonality that we may speak to the consciousness or the psyche of what it is to be interfaith sensitive. Yet at the same time, the way various traditions interpret those symbols is delightful. I'm always skeptical about reducing everything to a bland commonality. I want to know and experience the diversity that's in the tradition, because that diversity doesn't have to be a source of conflict or division. It can be a source of delightfulness. One of the things that I noticed about the online calendar is that if you go to the end of the page, there is an alphabetical from A to Z index of the dictionary, so that the technical terminology that's used in the various traditions is concisely available to you. Also, if you noticed in the print edition of the one called the Multi-Faith Calendar, if you go to the end pages of the calendar past December, you will see that it gives a synopsis, if you will, of the traditions of humankind. And that's very, very important. It's just a wonderful resource. I don't know about you, but I would like to read 100 volumes on all the different traditions. So it's always important for me to have in front of me concise summaries by which I can taste the delightfulness and the contribution of the various traditions. Let me conclude by pointing out two things. Somebody once said that if you want to understand what a people believe, what their philosophy is, then pay attention to how they pray, how they meditate, how they observe the various seasons and feast days and holidays and commemorations and observances of the year. It also helps us to understand that we come together in our social concerns and our pursuit for justice. But as you probably discovered when you encounter the diversity of other people and the depth of their soul, there's something about them that touches you profoundly, and your life is never quite the same. When I now pray within the ethos, if you will, or the mythos of my own tradition, I literally stand in the center of the world, hopefully as a brother, or at least a friend of all the people I meet on the pathway of life. And finally, a deeper appreciation of the markers of the month and the markers of the year is another aspect of what it is to practice interfaith or interreligious spirituality. You might also want to include in your calendar, as you look out over the year, the days of the week and the months of the year that are crucial to you as a person. Your own individual life experience needs to be marked out. What days, what events touched your mind, heart, and soul to give you the willingness and the courage to walk on the pathways by which all of us together discover what is good, true, right, and beautiful. Be aware, my love and prayer.
Thank you so much, Father Bonacci, on that. What a perfect way to start the year, than to start with the calendar and search within it those things, those dates near and dear to our heart and soul. The next item, are there any questions for Father Bonacci on the calendar?
Just
Anyone?
want to say that it was beautiful and inspiring, and I really appreciate your thoughts. I see that it's really important to have a larger global perspective when, instead of defending your own religious perspective and saying, you're not including my faith traditions, you know, festivals or whatever. It just, I just really appreciated the perspective that you offered, and wanted to thank you for that, and to, you know, see that when I'm praying, I'm in the center as well of the paths of all I've met, all the people I've met. So thank you. It was a very inspiring message.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi, Father Tom. I just wanted to thank you also for the for all that you've said, all the insights, and just to share with the council that JCRC has for years going back shared with public educators the Jewish holidays, and we got feedback that they would like all of the faith's holidays. And so now, based on that feedback, I do add a link so that school administrators have access to all faith holidays. So I agree, it is important that all faiths are recognized, and that now public school administrators in the entire Bay Area have access to that. So at least twice a year.
That's wonderful. I now tell my employer I need the entire year off because I'm celebrating my feast days.
I just wanted also to acknowledge that when you invite us to acknowledge our family, and that's in quotes, like however we define our family, our community, that what our own important dates are should be added. And it invites people who resist or have had negative experiences in religion or spirituality to continue to acknowledge that there are rituals and feast days, so to speak, that are really powerful and important and need to be acknowledged. It includes children in the conversation and intergenerational kind of awareness. So thanks for that reminder.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to our reports. We will do a quick, brief, a minute or so summary on the reports. All the reports are enclosed, were included either in the agenda itself, or if not, it came separate in the links that Reverend Will McCarvey had sent out. Can we have Terry Moss to give a quick update on the iCare project?
Thank you. I will speak quickly. I would love to be able to include the voices of those who are on this call today who are currently involved in iCare projects, but we don't have time. That would be Carolyn Peters and Diane Maltester, who are currently working on a project to do food kits for the county, and they need volunteers. I've posted the Sign Up Genius link on the chat. There are also, we need volunteers on a project that Dave Longhurst is working on with Opportunity Junction. And so take a look at that. And then we have 2 new projects that haven't even made it onto the Sign Up Genius yet, but they will in the months of March and April. We will, or for those 2 months. So please give consideration to participating as a congregational co-sponsor. I don't have details on those projects, but one is going to be for, they're going to be for our 2 nonprofit partners that we've done projects for in the past. One is Monument Crisis Center and the other is Trinity Center, and both are food related, not surprising. So just keep an eye out and start sending the word around to everybody you know see if your congregation might be willing to co-sponsor these projects. It's not only the joy and fulfillment of service, but it's the opportunity to do it in an interfaith setting so that you get to meet people and work with people in ways that you wouldn't have an opportunity to if you were to just do it within your congregation. So we're being we're very happy with what we've been able to do so far, and we want to keep the momentum going. And I want to thank all of you for your help. Greg was on this call. I don't see him right now, but he's our outreach. Oh, there he is, our outreach person. You can always contact him or me if you have any questions. And again, the link is on the chat. Thanks.
Thank you, Terry. Margaret, will you do a quick summary on iChange for us?
Yeah, we've come into the new year and have kind of bumped up against some really interesting changes within the organizations we're serving and within the organizations that have been supporting us in the work of creating an adult mentoring program to work with juveniles who are leaving, who are still incarcerated and who are leaving incarceration. So we are kind of in a I don't know what the right word is, but we're reevaluating and reconsidering how our services and resources can be best used as changes in our state are putting a little bit of a kink in our process. So we were getting, for example, a lot of support and training from CASA, but because CASA didn't work with juveniles in detention, and now CASA is going to work with juveniles in detention. So that has made it more difficult for us to use their training, but that's okay. And we're just, the committee is rethinking, is restorative justice something we want to use to engage with this population of youth? Do we still want to create mentoring with adults in the same way we had envisioned before? So we're having great conversations, and Julius is really working hard with the probation department, with other committees in the county and in the state. So we're a little bit on hold, but the committee is really excited to figure out how we can pivot. And also we're hoping the vaccinations that are coming quite honestly faster than we had originally expected might help us get into physical contact with the juveniles in detention. So it's a little complicated, but we're all still very positive. There's a bunch of people right here in front of you that are part of our committee, Will and Meg Keeley, and who else do I see? Yeah, so wish us luck and join us if you have ideas. It's an amazing group of people, and we really want to support our youth.
Thank you, Margaret Niles. On our Social Justice Alliance, Dennis Vasco, do you have a quick summary?
Sorry, had to unmute. Yes, good morning and glad to be with all of you today. In regard to Winter Nights, we now have 12 people who are in the Winter Nights program, and obviously it's a little bit lower than in past years because of the COVID restrictions. And all of the staff and the people have been tested, and so we're definitely taking care of those medical issues. In regard to the Naval Weapons Station, the City of Concord is looking at hiring a new developer, and so that is coming up. SOCIA is working with the National Interfaith Power and Light Organization, and they will be having a documentary. So be aware of that and look for it. It's called Breathe the Unbreathable. And also, SOCIA is looking into to see if the tiny homes, you may have seen an article in the East Bay Times, this I think it was this last week, in regard to the tiny homes that could possibly be put on parking lots and so on of different faith communities. We're working with the state legislature, or the state legislature, to extend the eviction protection statutes that have been passed because of COVID. And if that doesn't work, we'll be looking to work with the County Board of Supervisors. And also the county is in the process of putting together a new Office of Racial Equality and Social Justice. And so we expect to be active participants in that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis Washko, for the report. Interfaith Juvenile Hall Chaplaincy, we have Reverend Julius Van Hook to give us a quick update.
Yes, so things are going pretty good. Margaret has shared some of the things that we have been experiencing as it relates to our iChange committee and some of the things that we're going through. And the same can apply to some areas of juvenile chaplaincy. But the good news is that I have been in conversation with the chief concerning all of the new populations coming in, and we are just running like a well-oiled machine at this point in time. We're still getting some letters and notes, and I'm still distributing those, still talking with kids via phone as needed. We are now looking to expand technology at the ranch so that the services that I do at the hall can be broadcast at the ranch as well. As anyone that knows anything about working with the county, they are very slow with everything, especially technology. So we're just excited that we're moving forward with that. The youth have been doing the best that they can as well, considering the situation. And we're just looking forward to building more partnerships with other areas within that serve the youth, not just probation. For example, I have a monthly meeting with the school department now. We're working together to identify students that would be prime candidates for our mentorship program and for some of the getting out of Dodge type things. I have another partner with UC Berkeley that we've been working with, trying to figure out how her college readiness program can be intertwined with what we have going on. So 2021 is definitely a season of expansion and discovery.
Thank you, Reverend Julius Van Hook. Last on the list of reports, we have education and schedule of upcoming events by Reverend Will, and then after that, he will break us into our Interfaith Dialogue.
I just want to lift up a couple of the big events that are coming up right now. And among those, of course, this next Monday is the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. service. It's going to be online, and our own Reverend Julius is going to be preaching. You can donate towards that to Soja in our designated offerings online. And then instead of a witness, like in years past, we've gotten together and we've held up signs in downtown Walnut Creek around 10 a.m. This year, we're going to do a virtual witness, and Rodney Lemery from our governing board is going to be helping lead that. And it's going to be online. There will be some online training starting at 1:30 if you're not very technologically adept, but most of it's going to go from 2 to 3 p.m. And 1:30 for those not familiar with technology. So we're not doing signs at the Civic Park. We're doing it online, and you'll be able to write to an elected leader or make phone calls, and there will be some good resources that he's put together for us in that time. And he's done a really good job putting these together for Mount Diablo UU Church. And we're partnering with Faith in Action East Bay for that as well. The ISERV, Interfaith San Ramon Valley and St. Joan of Arc's Catholic Church is doing an atonement service for the sin of racism on January 24th, the Sunday after Dr. King. And then there's some racial equity issues with criminal justice system at B'nai Shalom on the 27th, and our own anti-racism training with our own implicit bias training that we're hosting. We really hope that you will encourage your members of your congregation to participate in this training. This is for you and your leadership and your members of your congregation to do this implicit bias training. We're able to do this because of the funding that we got through the Lesher Foundation with our other anti-racism trainings, and Lev White will be our trainer, and we're very appreciative of him. We are going to bring Reverend Shonda back to do a panel with Lev White in February or March. So we anticipate having more of those into the future. And then February 1st through 7th is always World Interfaith Harmony Week. And this year we're emphasizing food ministries, especially with as many people living with food insecurity during the pandemic. So if your congregation has a food ministry of any sort, we want to lift it up in our e-blast for that week and encourage folks to know about the work that you're doing, but also what your needs are. So you can talk to Greg or me. We'll be putting together that information for that World Interfaith Harmony Week. It's always February 1st through 7th. And the other shout out I'll put out here is International Women's Day is always March 8th. And we're putting together our Women's Day program. If you want to be a part of the planning team for that, or if you have ideas for speakers on the panel, or if you know of a women's choir that might be willing to share a recording of some of their music for that program, we would love to talk to you. Please give me a call. And our first retreat is going to be the Sunday before that, March 7th. So it'll be online. And our theme this year is nurturing the beloved community. And we're so blessed to be able to have Reverend Dr. Dorsey Blake from the Church for the Fellowship of All Peoples from San Francisco, who is the successor of Howard Thurman in that pulpit, in that congregation, who did a lot of his teaching on building the beloved community. And we are excited to be able to have 3 other really great faith leaders on that. This is a theme we'll probably spill over into the next year, so we can have additional faith traditions leaders speaking about the same topic as we consider how it is that we build a beloved community together. So let me know if you have any questions about that offline. Thanks.
Now, can you open us up into our dialogue phase of the meeting today?
Sure. There was a document that came with your email, and it was a draft PDF of our draft response, interfaith response to the political violence in the Capitol. And I'm going to put it in the chat room here as well, but you should have received it by email. And then we encourage you to take a look at this as we come together. And there's some questions inside the agenda. What are some of the faith leaders' responses in your communities? What are the members of your faith community saying about what happened in the Capitol last week? And what are your thoughts and concerns? What do you think is a correct response to last Wednesday's events? And how can our celebration of Reverend Dr. MLK Jr. Day and his message intersect with the national conversation going on right now around that. So use this statement as fodder for our dialogue. That's one of the things that our recent rapid response policy that helped us think about putting together such documents has encouraged us to use documents like this as the basis for our dialogue so that we can then hear responses from people of multiple faith traditions to the written response, so that that can be a part of helping us understand differing ways that we all come to questions such as these. So we're going to break you up into small groups, into breakout rooms of 3 or 4 people. And we're going to do it just randomly. So let me get a few more here. And we remind you that you're going to need a reporter in each of these rooms that will write down your top 2 or 3 responses that you come up with during your time together. And we're going to come back for the harvest at about 15, maybe 10 minutes before 10. How does that sound? So you're going to receive a dialog box on your screen, and we encourage you to hit the join button to join these small groups. Hey, Margaret.
I have not had time to put all of this together very precisely.
No worries, then. We can wait and see if there's another group that wants to go.
Basically, I would appreciate being placed a little later.
Okay. Does anyone else, is anyone else from another group ready to report out?
We'll go ahead. We're number 2.
Channing Miller.
Yeah, this group
Carolyn McKenzie, Randy Thomas, and Tom Bonacci.
Thank you very much. We had a very robust dialogue, which was wonderful. And we covered all the things that we felt about what's happening. We talked about why it's happening. And then we also talked about what we thought might be some remedies societally. So in summary, one of the things that we mentioned was that we needed a new framework from our new administration in terms of dealing with all the issues in our society. We felt that there needed to be a strong emphasis on consequences for the behavior that has gone on, as well as we want to see policies that are empathetic, that help to really rebuild the economy and provide services to people in need. The second thing we talked about was the focus on evangelicals. And the comment was that this is really a sickness in Christianity. And a book was recommended, The Power Worshipers. And then the third thing we talked about was the beloved community and how we get there. And it looks like it was mentioned that the beloved community started in Georgia with all of the response there. So that's just a summary. I may have missed some things, but that to me was the highlights of what we discussed.
Thank you, Channing. Which room would like to go next?
I can go next. We are room 6. Not because I'm sure of what we said, but because I'm sure that it won't get clearer to me the longer I wait to speak. So I'm just going to share what I can remember.
Okay.
We had certainly 3, possibly 4 different faith communities represented in our group, and agreed that statements that were inclusive of many congregations realized that they had different things to say. And so, an Episcopal or a Jewish or a, larger collective of faith communities had different needs around what was going to be said, and that needed to be held with a lot of care. Whether a faith community was going to make a political statement or make a statement about what needed to happen next, or whether a faith community wanted to just talk about how what's happening impacts us and how we can use our faith to keep love alive. So that's complicated. We also talked about what does tolerating mean, and that word is tricky. That what one person or one faith community might believe about how we tolerate each other's behavior would not be okay with other faith communities. So there's a lot of words that are tricky. I'm looking really quickly. There was where it said dignity, right? The third bullet point, that we have a responsibility to recognize the dignity of everyone. And then it goes on to be pretty specific about whose dignity we are really talking about, as we say, self-seeking, greedy, and sensitive governmental leaders. That kind of pricked my attention of like, whoa. And I'm not being very clear, but that there's a piece of inclusiveness and love and awareness and holding and pain, and then there's a line, and that line has been crossed. So this is really hard. And the very last thing we talked about is what can we do is we can listen. We can just keep listening to ourselves, keep listening to each other, and keep listening to the people who are yelling the loudest, to try to listen to what's underneath. Did anyone from my group just feel like I missed something big? And I just want to say, I saw this written, I did not write it, but it really spoke to me, is when, for me personally, and for other people I've spoken to in faith communities, when you're marching with, we've all been, well, hopefully, literally or figuratively, we've been marching in different ways for different things. And when I'm marching and someone next to me has a Confederate flag or an Auschwitz sweatshirt, I personally know that's not where I want to be, and that's not my side. And that needs, I don't know, all this compromise and love and inclusiveness and dignity for all. There's a moment where that pivots, and I guess it's different for everyone, but for me, it's really clear.
When violence starts, that's your line.
Yeah, violence, passive violence or active violence, like Randy was talking about. You know, carrying a Confederate flag is violence, even if the person is silent. It's violence to me.
Thank you.
Will,
Which
could I
group wants
add
to go
one more?
next?
Could I add
Yes.
one more thing? I forgot this is a very important point. It was brought up that most interfaith communities consider this political and they're not taking it seriously. And so the recommendation was that the interfaith community take this seriously, even though it's political. So I just wanted to make sure that I added that.
I can hear Father Tom thinking, what do we call political and what do we call social justice or spiritual or faith in that response to? Yeah.
And there,
Who
that would have
wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Jerry.
So yeah, and I'll just add that I think we can hide behind something by calling it political, because it's easier, because that seems like you're pointing the finger at somebody else, because, you know, I'm not a political figure. And that kind of goes to what the theme was, I think, of what we were talking about, which was atonement. And how do you atone for something that you don't even take accountability for, that you don't even know exists? And so before you can atone, I think atonement, it reminds me of South Africa's, you know, reconciliation efforts, but that we need a national atonement. And but before you can atone, you need to become aware of what your shortcomings are. I'm not sure, the word sin can be loaded and misinterpreted. So one definition is separation from your God or your faith or whatever. But in any case, Christ the King is doing a lot of efforts in terms of social justice and racial equity in their response, looking at training, a broad sweep of training in their diocese, of their schools, their parishes, and the seminary on this. And they're looking at some kind of atonement. What was referenced was a program called Just Faith, which is a robust education program that their church is promoting and offering to parishioners. And it's on, you know, it's a full range of programming that maybe we can, or Carolyn can give us the link to. But there, from the perspective of somebody of Reza, who was not, or who was lived in another country with an oppressive regime, and he has a perspective that says, you know, his emphasis was on self-interest and self-benefit and self-friendships and just the self-centered aspect of this, and talked about and we all talked about the importance of changes in policing. And then I mentioned that creating opportunities to create dialogue using nonviolent communication, which is a technique where you can use kind of a universal list of needs and feelings that can be used as a basis for having a conversation where everybody realizes that there are places where that we all share. And by doing that, we can, you know, at least begin a dialogue. So those were some of the things that we talked about. I've been trying to copy and paste my comments into the chat and they won't go. So I'll just send it to you.
I think I got a pretty good, but if you can just email them to me, that would be great.
I will.
Who wants to go next? No worries. Yeah, I'm having some issues with that too. Yeah. Dale, did you want to share? Dale? And then Marin.
Okay, thank you.
Meg took the notes for us.
Meg, you're muted.
Greg did?
Sorry. Yeah, so I would say that we had three main themes. The one was the right to vote and voter suppression. And we talked a lot about voter suppression. And I think there was a feeling that a lot of good work had been done this year. And there were a lot more people of color who were out voting that had not voted previously, and that was a really good thing. But we also see that we need to get more involved in maybe being at the polls as people of faith at the polls to monitor voting and to keep people feeling safe, and also to educate people, continue to educate people about voter suppression. We also talked about the capital events, and in that sense that, you know, so many politicians and others have been saying that's not who we are. And we're pretty clear that that is who we are and can be, and it needs to be addressed. And so much of it was representing white supremacy, and that we really need to look at another piece of that was the religious nationalists and how people are being manipulated into kind of side and being manipulated by what I call the fat cats, and creating more hatred instead of love. So, and just people not trusting each other, people feeling like they're losing something. We also talked about electing people with integrity, and someone mentioned that Tutu said that the important thing in bringing people together had to do with integrity. And so we talked a little bit about what is integrity and how could people have voted Trump in knowing what he was, and once again, how people were manipulated because of their fear of losing power. They were manipulated into hatred. I think that's it.
Thank you. And Diane Maltester put a piece in the chat room here too, addressing the events. This is America that has been there all along under the American veneer. People have been neglected. We need to create an environment that supports both the urban and rural poor, addressing white supremacy, rage being upset with other ethnic groups' needs being addressed before their needs, being afraid of losing their privileges. And I'll just add that it does feel like some folks are trying to put white grievances ahead of other grievances that our culture's finally starting to address. And Terry, you shared a New York Times article. You want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I read it this morning. It's very detailed and just helps get to some of the underlying issues, and that seemed like it's so confusing to me, and beginning to understand it. And ironically, I think we talked about this in our group. If everyone could talk about their grievances and feeling unheard, and that, you know, and that they've lost opportunities to get ahead, we'd find that a lot of people have a lot in common if we could get to that point of talking about that.
Yeah, maybe that's why the Poor People's Campaign might be able to really address a lot of the issues that folks have. I see Zula's hand and Diane's hand.
Yes, thank you. I feel like I really need to say something. I lived in that city, Washington, for half my life, and I don't know that people really grasp the importance of that city. I mean, the climate changes every 4 to 8 years. It's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And I mean, it truly is where things happen. And this goes to the religious versus political. Whatever needs to change, that's where it happens. I mean, whatever laws or rules, I mean, I know religious, it's supposed to be separate, but when things like this is all of it sort of jumbled together for me. I mean, whatever it is, I mean, we are people and we need to come together, and that is part of, that's where things happen. It is the center of power. That's where the marches happen. That's where people from whatever city or state or county or town or village in this country, that's where they go. They gather up their money in whatever way they can, and they go into that building and talk to the Senate, the Congress, or the judges, whatever it is. That's where it happens. I mean, that's us. It is us. So I just want people to, I mean, I'm feeling really about this whole thing because that's my hometown basically. And for it to be attacked like that, it's
Very
really a
troubling.
horrible thing. And I'm sorry, I just needed to say that.
Thank you, Sula.
Okay.
Thank you. Diane?
Also mentioned was the book Hillbilly Elegies by Shabra. She said that was a really good book. She enjoyed, and and also the fact that it's again showing our white supremacy when we have the whites trying to again usurp any kind of justice that should come to the ethnic groups that have suffered for so long.
Yeah, that's my struggle of how do we help people recognize that they're acting out of their privilege, even though their grievances are as real as everyone else's. That's why we need to have more solidarity between urban poor and rural poor. Marin?
Wait a second.
Marin? I'm going to hit ask to unmute, so it's probably in a dialog box on your screen. Make it easier to unmute there, Marin.
Yeah, right. The one in the corner is a little hard to see. Basically, we had, I think, 4 fairly different groups that had ranging from one group that was very political in response to the situation in Washington to one that really wasn't very political at all. But the kind of the consensus of what we said, and I did put that up in the group, is that any statement that I4C puts out should be really concise, and maybe stay away from any political kinds of things that might make people uncomfortable. We had varying attitudes toward the event, but the important thing was that calming down to be able to examine the causes rather than responding in the heat of the moment was the solution to trying to find a way out of this. And since peace was the goal, we should be proceeding tranquilly toward making toward whatever we were doing, and particularly being willing to listen so that others would be willing to listen to us. And that Martin Luther King and Gandhi, who was mentioned earlier today, really are models of having a vision without forcing that vision on others, just presenting it and letting them go.
Thank you, Marin. Tom, did you have something you wanted to add? I thought I saw you raise something.
It's for me, this has been 50 years in the making, at least. It's uncovered some of the darker roots of our American history, going back to slavery, the oppression of women, the genocide upon which the country is built. That doesn't mean that our vision and values are invalid, but it does mean that they're reshaped as our consciousness grows. But the co-opting of Christianity by right-wing politics has gone on in my consciousness since Ronald Reagan. And what I think has happened is that many of us, in the attempt to be fair-minded, have tried to separate politics and religion under the idea that that would be non-controversial. Meanwhile, the darker sides were co-opting Christianity. When you see a Confederate flag with an AK-47 in the middle of it, saying, come and take, and then on the top it says Trump and Jesus, and the antiphon is, Jesus is my Lord, Trump is my president, we are compelled to say something. As somebody who practices Christianity, I'm offended, heartbroken, and at the same time, I'm identified with that, and I don't want to be identified with that. So I've been pleading, I plea again, that those of us who are religious leaders or have interfaith sensitivities or sit on interfaith boards, we have to reconsider our political neutrality. we do have to stand up for what is good, right, true, and beautiful, even if it causes controversy. I'd rather have controversy in a room than death in the street.
Amen to that. Can we, well, thank you so much. Those reflections were just amazing. I think there's light at the end of the tunnel, I believe. The year 2021 is looking hopeful already for me. We have the benediction next. Reverend Dr. Dale Weatherspoon will do the benediction of today.
Thank you. I also wanted to say, I put in the chat earlier a link to a New York Times article that says, that talks about this is not who we are. That's a statement we keep making, when in fact it is. What we saw last week is who we are as a nation, which is very divided. I offer this benediction as we ask the Holy One to encourage our hearts and give us courage to continue to speak truth to power. God is our protection, the one who has given us pleasant places and a broad space on which to stand. We have a godly heritage. Go forth in the knowledge that God is faithful along the path of life. Go forth knowing that you are in the presence of God's full joy, and that at God's right hand are your pleasures forevermore. Go forth with the authority Christ gives to his church. Cry out against wrong, heal where there is hurt, feed, clothe, and defend those who live on the margins. Train up children in the ways of God. Show no contempt for youth, comfort the elderly. In all things, give God the glory and praise, now and forever. Amen.
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 Amen. What a blessed discussion today. Thank you.
We had a wonderful dialogue, and I think it's time for us to do the goodbyes, but not for too long. Once again, Happy New Year to everyone. And with Reverend Dr. Dale Witherspoon's benediction, I think there's nothing else to add. We can stick with those words in our hearts and souls until we meet next time.
Thank you.
Goodbye and thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
folks.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Thanks.
Bye.